Hello and welcome to another forecast. We're doing the new moon in Aries, which is upcoming. I am going to share a chart and hope that I'm not pushing my luck recording this just before load shedding. So I might be re-recording and that will serve me right. So here we are. This is for set for the 21st of March 2023. And remember not to pay attention to where things are in terms of the house system, the pie wedges kind of going around the wheel, because that may not be the same for you. It's set for South Africa. So yeah, don't take that into account, but wherever that lands in your part of the world, it's still going to have the planets at the same degrees that we're looking at them here. And I'm kind of excited about this new moon coming up because it's actually the first of two Aries new moons. Now, it's not every single year that we have two new moons in the same sign. Normally, on average, we have a new moon in every sign in the course of a year, a full moon in every sign in the course of a year. But because the moon cycle is slightly shorter than the sun cycle, or the 12 portions that make up the full solar return, sometimes we get a 13th something. So we'll have a 13th of something every year, but it's not always a new moon, and it certainly isn't always falling in the new moon sign of Aries. So Aries is a new beginning. New moons are new beginnings. And what is absolutely remarkable for me with this one, it feels like, first of all, we get a double start. So it's like we have a little bit of space to make a false start if we need to, or to kind of test the waters like a test run. And then we have a second Aries new moon that goes, okay, so I realized what's going to work. I realized what isn't. And now I'm really starting. It's almost like a soft opening and then an actual opening of something. So that's one of the reasons that I'm quite excited about it. But also, this one is at 0 degrees of Aries. So basically, that is the very first degree of the entire 360 degrees zodiacal wheel. And so could we have a better new beginning, new moon than 0 degrees of Aries? I don't think so. So you can see sun and moon, as always, are together at a new moon. That's what a new moon is. At 0 degrees of Aries, they're only a few degrees off Mercury. So Mercury is very much playing into the whole conversation of this moon. So this is also in very much a new beginning in the way that we're thinking about things, the way that we're languaging our lives. What stories are you telling? What words are you using? What words are you taking in? What are you watching on the news? What are you reading in books? What shows are you watching? Observe yourself. And because this is like the soft opening, you get a chance to begin, but also to go, I don't know that I really should have been saying this. Or maybe my promo material shouldn't have gone out with these words. Maybe those aren't the key words for this project. And then to fine tune it by the next Aries new moon. What's interesting is the next Aries new moon is going to be at the last degree of the sign of Aries. So it also, for me, is like bookending the sign of Aries. And Aries is a bit busy at the moment. It's in the process of having a long, slow transit with Chiron there. And Chiron is the wounded healer. It's this little guy over here at 14 degrees. And Chiron is really helping us to pick apart the wounds in being ourselves, the wounds in being individual, the wounds in having the courage to be the warrior that goes into battle to fight for what our belief systems are, and do that in our own right from a strong centered self. Why do we not? Why are we triggered? Why are we wounded? Why are we moving into our nervous system responses, the sympathetic nervous response of fight, flight, or flee, or the freeze response where we're not able to actually take action in that moment, even though there's energy coursing through our bodies? We can't actually move through that because we're half in parasympathetic fight, flight, and flee, and half in the dorsal where it's like going into hibernation. Maybe that's also your modus operandi, going into hibernation, going into malaise, going into droop, drop, blur, numb. Nothing seems to be that important. We're getting to really look at some of these aspects of our response to things, because Aries is about how we respond. And so as we work with the wounding, it's like, what in those responses is serving and what isn't, and how can I change that? And then it's going to be at 14 degrees right next to Jupiter, who's also been traveling here at 16 degrees. And Jupiter just makes the stories bigger. So he says, look at the wounds in a bigger way. He cracks things open. He brings in, like, look at it from a spiritual perspective, and look at it from a fun perspective, and look at it from a social perspective. Look at it, like, open your eyes. He's kind of like a jumping, he feels like Jack in the Boxy to me in this new moon energy, you know, like really cracking the whip, like the time is now, don't waste time. Super enthusiastic sort of prophet of doing the work, doing the healing, and making the changes, the new beginnings that are needed in us as individuals, because Aries is the individual, the me space. But you remember that we've had Saturn going through Aquarius, we've got Pluto moving into Aquarius right around this time, like within a few days, basically. So that's also saying that I need to be looking at me in order to make the better future for all of us. It's not just about me, but I need to focus on me in order to be good in the new we environment that is really coming to fruition. Then we have got Pluto at that 20, in fact, he's at 29 degrees here and 58 minutes of a sign. So within days, he's moving. And that is also everything that has been Pluto in Capricorn is like really expanding out of itself in a sense. And that is the structures. What structures? I mean, I've done a video on Pluto, so you can go back and look at that if you choose to. But what structures have I been pushing for? What structures have I been tearing down? What structures have I been building up? And how is that serving the me? Because we're looking at the new beginning of the me. Myself is a brand ambassador for life and the living. So we can look at it in a business like a soft launch of a new business or a new project, or you can look at yourself as the business, the project, the job. You know, what words would you put to yourself, and what structures have you been working on for the last 15 years actually, that really now you're going, wow, I didn't even know I was laying the framework for that, but now that I have that framework in place, let me launch myself. It's really a strong launching feeling for me. We also have that the next, this is the first Aries new moon is not an eclipse, but the second Aries new moon is an eclipse. And so we get to have, in a sense, this really powerful new beginning seed, but we also get to like feel into it, so that when we have the next one, which is an eclipse, which is always going to be like a new moon on steroids, it's super intense, and the impacts start longer before, last for longer after, they're just bigger. We'll kind of have done the legwork for that as well, because we've had this opportunity to have this new moon at 0 degrees. So I feel like that's also an important thing for us to pay attention to. In the meantime, we have Venus on this day at 5 degrees of Taurus. She loves being in Taurus. She's at home there, but she's on the North Node. And that is making Venus's conversation very fated, very destined, very karmic and dharmic. We need to go, what is my value system focusing on, again, for the future? And what I love about this being in the sign of Taurus is that I think it's going to balance out the Aquarius, which is very much AI, which, I mean, we can all see exploding and blowing up, and things becoming very technology focused. All that's very Aquarius. I've been speaking into this in previous readings, especially with Pluto moving and Saturn moving. The technology is like a big, like expanding push. But Taurus says, come back to the land, come back to your body, come back to the earth, garden, grow your own food. Those kinds of things are what she's saying. And I feel like that's where the balance can be redressed, because yes, technology is going to expand. Yes, AI is developing at the speed of light. Yes, all of that is true. How do we balance that out? Because there is space for humans in this future. We're not going to be wiped out, I hope, with AI. But what we have the space to do is to move back to the land, to connect back with nature's cycles, with the earth. This is important for our values. This is important for our growth. This is important for our futures. And we still have Uranus in Taurus, where he's been a while, and he's revolutionizing that space. He's fighting for freedom and revolution. Have some land, learn how to grow, learn how to plant, learn how to ground yourself, learn how to get into your own body. Make that part of your day-to-day. Let AI do some of your grunt work so that you have more time to slow down and get grounded and bring yourself into yourself. Of course, we're also feeling into this new feeling of Saturn's new job working in Pisces. So it will be interesting to give ourselves some time to reflect on how that's feeling for you, how that's shifted for you. And we have Mars at the very end of Gemini, where he spent so much time. So he's also at a point of wrapping up this Gemini journey, this I can take two directions, I can take two paths, should I, shouldn't I? What's going to work the best for me at this time? So it's also a good point of reflection, because we're at the new beginning, we're at the soft launch, we're preparing ourselves for the big eclipse new moon that is the following new moon 4 weeks later. And if we check in with all of these aspects of self during this new moon, and if we continue to create a vision board, a treasure map for our time moving forward, which is a practice that I'm going to be doing in my red tent. For those who are interested in joining, check that out. Just get in touch with me for more info. We'll be building the treasure map over the space of a month, because we have that opportunity, which we're not always afforded, to really get discerning, to dig in, to reflect, and then to take this phenomenal action journey into the future. So before the power goes out, I'm going to sign off for this little forecast. Keep it short and sweet for our fast and fiery, feisty Aries. And I am an Aries moon, so this is going to be very impactful to me. Where does that land in your chart? Let me know. And yeah, check in with whether that's useful for you, if it's hitting any planets or points in your chart. Have a wonderful month.